What we're going to talk about today is part 2 of a 3-part series on why you entrepreneurs, small business owners, salespeople should be cold calling on social media today. Part 1 was why you should. Part 2 is how to prepare yourself to cold calling on social media. Just like anything else, you have to be prepared, because if you're not prepared, you're not going to perform right. Does that make sense? Now, before we dig into the topic, if you're watching this on YouTube and you like this podcast and you want to follow me on my channel, just hit the subscription button below. If you like the video, smash the like button. But more importantly, do me a favor. Share your genuine and honest comments. Let me know what you think about this and if it's been helpful to you. All right, guys, let's dig into this. Part 2, how to cold call or how to prepare to cold call on social media. This is very important because, if you have a weak foundation, you're not going to be able to build on it. Because if you try to build on it, eventually it's going to collapse. So you have to be prepared for anything that you do. I know I'm always preparing myself, whenever I'm going to get on the phone and I'm going to cold call, I'm always prepared. Because if I'm not prepared, I don't make the phone calls. It's just the way I work. So now, there's 3 parts or 3 steps to part number 2. The first step is identify who your qualified prospects are. That's vital. That's the grunt work. No one, or most no one, likes to do the grind work. But guess what? The grind is where the value is. That's where you get sharp. That's where you get the calluses, because you are able to deal with the grind. Now, what I'm going to share with you in step 1 is where you can actually go and find your qualified prospects or qualified leads. Leads are just names of peoples and names and numbers of qualified prospects. So where do I go? How do I get my qualified leads and prospects? First thing I do is I go to the BBB. For those of you who don't know what that is the Better Business Bureau. It's a phenomenal source. It's free. It has the name of the owner, how long they've been in business, what kind of rating they have, what kind of revenues they generate, what is their industry about. So it gives you a better idea of who they are. And it allows you to target them. It's one of the best tools I use, the Better Business Bureau. It's there. It's free. Here's another avenue that I use that I recommend you guys do to target and get the right qualified leads. I'm sure you've heard of this name, Google, right? Did you know that Google became a verb in the English language in 2009? Why? Because everybody says Google this and Google that. They don't say Bing this or Yahoo that, right? So think about the names of people or the businesses on Google that you have access to anytime you want. I use it all the time. Think about that. So you have to identify on Google who are your targeted prospects. Here's another one. Yelp is another source that I use to target qualified leads or qualified prospects. Once I identify the industry and me understanding that industry, I go to these sources to target who they are. Who's the next one? Your followers. Think about it. If people like your content and they're commenting on your content and they're sharing your content, what better lead or what better target audience can you target and to identify who they are? For me, it's like an example. If someone left you, or let's say 5 people left you messages that they want to hire you for your services, are you going to call those people back? Of course you are, right? That's what we call a hot lead, right? So why is it when someone likes your content, shares your content, or comments on your content, you don't call them back to sell them? It's no difference. Think about that. Also, subscribers. Think about that. subscribers, whether it's on your YouTube channel or some other form of video apps that are out there. Why not? If they genuinely are interested in what you're offering, then it's your duty to target them, to offer them your services. Now, here's the key. You really got to believe and know that the product and or services you're offering is beneficial to them. You must do that. I know for what I offer, they need, the entrepreneur, the small business owners, salespeople need what I'm offering. And so I target who they are so that I'm able to do that. Does that make sense? Okay, now step number 2 is learn about your prospects. I call it pre-qualifying. What do I mean by that? Once you identify where they're at and who they are, now step number 2 is you start to look at what weaknesses they have, what industry they're in. For example, me specifically, there's 5 industries that I target. And I'm about to hit a 6th one soon. But I know the industry. I can speak their language. I understand the questions that they're going to ask. And I know what they need to hear. So you got to understand the industry. You got to know their weaknesses. You have to understand the type of social media they have or don't have. That's very important. You have to know how much revenue they generate annually or have a ballpark figure. Why? Because that's going to determine, your pricing, whether they can afford it or not. How much, by you offering your services or products, how much more revenue they're going to be able to generate or increase percent-wise, right? You have to understand if they have a valid or efficient SEO, which means search engine optimization. Is their social media optimized? What kind of online presence they have. How long they've been in business. These are all pre-qualifying questions. Now, you can do that one or two ways. You can do that while you're researching and targeting them. Or you can do that when you make the initial contact or the initial call. I do it both times. I look at what's out there on social media, and then I verify it again when I speak with them. Because sometimes what's out there on social media is not accurate. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. But at least you have an idea that you can ask them, I see that you generated X amount of revenue last year. Well, no, that's not true. But you had an idea. You just didn't guess. You just told them it's out there. And now they're going to give you the correct information. Does that make sense? Now, one of the other things I meant to mention is in step 1, not only subscribers you can target and your followers, but your followers. If someone has more followers than you, they're more quality followers than what you may have, why not target them as well? Just think about that. Okay, step number 3 is what I call laying the foundation to the initial contact. Again, if you laid the foundation, I'm going to give you an analogy. For example, let's say you want to build a custom home, right? The first thing you have to do is what? You have to find a land that's not encumbered. Encumbered, for those of you who don't know, means there's no liens on it. It's a clean title so that you can take ownership. Once you have that, the next thing you're going to do is you have a blueprint, right? So you got to hire a general contractor to do the work, right? Okay. Now, once you have the general contractor and they're ready to go to work, what's the first thing they do? They start to break ground, right? After they break ground, they put in the pipes. When they finish the pipes, they cement it. After they cement it, they frame the house. After they frame the house and they put the roof, they start to put the windows, right? After the exterior is done, what do? They work on the inside. They put the floor, they put the sheetrock, whatever the case may be. The point is that they had to build the foundation first. Because if they build a weak foundation, that house will collapse when bad weather comes. So you have to lay down the foundation before the initial contact. And how do you do that? The number one thing you have to know is if they have a problem with their business. That's when the pre-qualification comes in. Number two, do you absolutely have the solution to the problem? Because if you don't even waste your time. Because if you are trying to sell them and you don't have a solution, you're flat out trying to scam them. Number three, after you know the problem and you have real solutions, now you're going to generate results. When you generate results, positive results, what happens? What is the outcome? The next thing is the outcome. To me, the outcome is always this: building the right relationship. But you can't build the right relationship if you have a weak foundation. And trust me when I tell you, prospects, when you call them and you're prepared for them and you understand their industry, you understand their concerns, and you did the work to understand them, they appreciate that. And here's why. Because the people I target are business owners, and they're targeting other business owners. And what do we all have in common? We're all customers. Think about that. And then the final part, on part 3, which is very, very important, is what I call the script. You need to have a proper script. A script for a salesperson, especially when they're selling a new product or services, is like a track. It's like a path. It's a direction to get from point A to point Z. What's point A? Point A is the initial contact. Point Z is the closing of the sale or producing a sale. But you have to have the right script because it allows you to tell the right story. It gets you focused. It keeps you on that right track. Does that make sense? So, think about that, guys. Ask yourself these questions. Are you truly preparing to cold call on social media? Or the question is, are you cold calling on social media? If you're not, then I encourage you to watch part 1. Why you should cold call on social media today. And then this will make a lot more sense. Does that make sense? So, I hope this has been helpful. I want to thank you all for being part of the Paul Cruz Show. Again, if you're watching this on YouTube and you like this video, smash that like button. If you want to follow me, just hit the subscription button below. And more importantly, again, share your comments. Let me know your thoughts. Till we speak again, I say goodbye. I wish everyone much success. Talk to you later. Bye.